All right, welcome back to another episode of Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host, I'm Judie Childress, and today we have such a special treat for everyone listening because I've invited my mother-in-law, Judie Childress, onto the podcast to talk about, reflections on grandparenting, what it's like to watch someone parent in this style, and also just so you get to know her because she's amazing. So Judie, welcome to the pod. Say hi.
Hi, thank you, Darlene, for inviting me. This
Yeah.
is a real privilege.
Yeah, and you're a fan. You like listen to the podcast sometimes, so that's
I
cool.
do. I keep learning from you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, you can already tell, the listener can already tell that we have a good relationship. And I know that's not true for every mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. So we could probably do a whole podcast episode on just that, like, what you did to make a good relationship with me, because I think you're a really good model of that, but we'll save that one for another episode.
Thank
So
you.
today we're going to talk a little bit more about parenting and grandparenting and how those two worlds can collide a little bit and how you've navigated some of those waters. But first we have to say, why are you even in town? Like, yeah, tell us what happened recently.
Well, we are in town because Sawyer graduated from high school on Thursday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a big day. And because he's your second, and we have seen the success of your parenting. And so it was quite a celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. He has been a wild card for sure. People who listen on the podcast know, like if they're longtime listeners, they know like I had a lot of struggle with Lincoln early on. We're going to get into that. And then with Sawyer, it's been just a lot of like adolescent shenanigans and, learning about how to parent a teenager has come from him. So, yes, we all breathed a big sigh of relief, didn't we?
Yes. And it was a moment for my husband and myself because we're so proud of the job that you have done.
Mhm.
And so grateful that we could be part of being here and celebrating with you.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's get into like quote unquote the job that we have done, Kevin and
Okay.
because yeah, I often frame the way that we're parenting and like what I'm teaching on the podcast as feelings first, behavior second. That's one of the things that I think about in how to describe this more connected parenting, this emotional coaching parenting, really using looking at behavior through this compassionate lens. And I will juxtapose it to what I think of as traditional parenting and how possibly maybe you grew up and how you raised Kevin. And we were at lunch yesterday, and Doug, your husband, said, "Well, we didn't know any better." And I wondered if you wanted to share a little bit, just like, yeah, I don't know, you don't have to get all deep into it, but you know, how it what it was like for you to be like traditional parenting and maybe I don't want to get all into like regrets and stuff because we don't need to go
Right.
all the way in there, but just I don't know, what are your reflections on what you've seen in parenting and how it's changed between the
Um,
generations?
well,
Yeah.
that's really true. We didn't know any better. We never had a class in how to parent. Um, those things didn't seem to be that available in our generation. And so we just parented the way that we were parented. It's the only model that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that calling it traditional parenting is a good title because the tradition is just passed down from generation to generation. And so I don't know uh, when I saw, well, the first time I saw your material was when I went to a workshop with you. I think you were first starting out, and I was just blown away to realize, hey, there's another way. It doesn't have to be the way I was parented just because that's what I've done and my parents did doesn't make it the best way. And I had a couple encounters early on with the kids when they were your kids when they were little, and it made a believer out of me because my way was not working. And I don't know if you want me to go into
Yes.
specifics with
Give
that.
us, they say today, they say, spill the tea, give us all the tea. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I remember this one incident in particular, which was what really made me realize I was deficient in my parenting abilities. We were taking care of the boys, and it was time for Sawyer to go to bed. And so I, in my authoritative voice, announced that to him, that it was time for him to go to bed. And I can even remember where we were standing in the stairway, and he yelled at me and he says, "You can't tell me what to do. You're not my parents." And I was just shocked. I didn't even know what to say, but I knew that I wasn't going to win this battle. And so I completely backed down. But then I realized, well, I need to learn how to talk to Sawyer so that we wouldn't have these explosive episodes. And that's when I really tuned in to the little phrases that you would say, the things that you would say to the boys, and just would watch you and how you work through the steps of dialing them down, and really just you stayed so calm. And I thought, I want to be like Darlene. It's like, because I would get triggered if there was an explosion. I had stuff in me that I hadn't worked through, and so that was all very interesting to me, because I'm a licensed professional counselor, and so I thought, wow, she's better at this than I am. I need to learn from her. So I took your little first booklet that you made, that you said, do not photocopy any of this stuff. And I was just like, oh, this is so good. More people have to know about this. So I'm always telling my best friend, who has 4 children and 14 grandchildren, and they're having, some of those, her kids are having problems with their grandchildren. And I say, you got to call Darlene. You got to call Darlene. And I just think that mothers don't know there's a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's just like, well, we just didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of fear that happens for a grandparent, particularly because, for the most part, traditional parenting, kids come out okay, right? Like Kevin and Kristen, your children are lovely humans and successful and all of those things. And so there's a little bit, I think, for people listening, because they're wanting their parents to understand this model, and their parents are like, well, it worked for you. Look at you. And what I think about is that a lot of times it works on the outside.
Mm,
Like you get good at managing your behavior, and traditional parenting, it looks good. You know how to work through the world and succeed and follow the rules and what's expected of you. And on the inside, though, it can feel like inauthentic, or no one's really listening to you. You don't have emotional awareness. You cut off from parts of yourself. And people who are attracted to this type of parenting, they want those results, and they want behavior modification results. And
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah,
So, mhm.
we get those emotions, and they don't just evaporate. They get buried in us,
Yeah.
and they stay with us until we can deal with them, or they come up somehow, or we acknowledge them. And I think with traditional parenting, I know in my own kids, I can see where there's not always a willingness to be vulnerable, and maybe that has a connection with that. There's an awareness, not a conscious awareness, but maybe a subconscious awareness, that those feelings are operating below the surface, and they don't want those feelings to explode, or they don't want to become reactive, and they don't know what to do with their big feelings, because nobody ever taught them what to do. I didn't teach Kevin what to do with big feelings. So I mean, I've been grateful that he has this opportunity to learn this now as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. We've done a lot together as a couple Well, I mean, I had to learn how to do it too, right? Because I grew up in a traditional parenting model, except no fear. It was absenteeism, really. Like we did a podcast episode a couple weeks ago on the different parenting styles, and there's like a neglectful parent, and they're just not present. And because of my mom's mental health issues, she wasn't able to be present for me. And then my dad was an absentee parent. So I didn't grow up with anyone emotionally coaching me either. No one was telling me what to do, nor were they helping me with my feelings. And so as I heal, and then this long marriage with your son, we talk through all of these things constantly, really. And so what I like about Kevin is that he's willing, just like you are. I think you put that learner, like that value for learning and growth in both of your kids, which is beautiful.
Do you think that comes from perfectionism? We're both perfectionists.
Yeah,
We
like,
want to
oh,
be
there's a way,
perfect.
there's a better way to do it. I better find out how to do it.
Exactly, exactly.
Possibly, which in this case, it's working for me in this one area.
Yeah.
um, well, so yeah, I think that that's what's happening for listeners and people that I work with, moms, is that they are like, well, I don't know what to do with my rage. I don't know what to do with my sadness. I don't know what to do with my overwhelm, because the modern society is so overwhelming. And then there's the perfectionistic mother example, as well as your kids not only should be well behaved, which is what you grew up, your model was, right? Everyone should like
Mhm.
act the
Yeah.
part. But now parents feel this pressure that their kids should act the part, and they should be emotionally coaching them. And it's like, they're like, well, I suck at both. My kids aren't listening to me, nor are they able to deal with their feelings. And it can feel really, really overwhelming. Um, so when a parent, like you said, on that staircase, where you were like, whoa, this kid's like, I don't have to listen to you. Going back, you said you took a couple steps back and, kind of reset yourself and then figure, oh, I need to talk to him better, differently, Sawyer. And that is really what it is. Like, we're reparenting in the process of parenting, and it's definitely a labor of love.
Yes. Well, I think if, as a mother, you want your in laws or your parents to understand this new way of parenting, really, I'd say from my experience, the best thing to do is just to live it out in front of them.
Mhm.
And they will be so impressed when they come over to see how you interact with your kids
Yeah.
that they'll want that.
Mhm.
And it'll really give them open their eyes to see that there is a better way, and it's okay to shift out of the traditional box of
Mhm.
parenting. I know in the beginning, Doug and I used to talk about what you and Kevin were doing as parents, and we go, oh, consequences, that just doesn't work that well. I mean, you've got to set boundaries, and it's like spare the rod, spoil the child,
Mhm.
all those traditional things. And but we were at least wise enough to know that we were the grandparents, not the parents. And
Yeah.
so we just kept our mouth shut,
Yeah.
fortunately.
Yeah, fortunately for our relationship, but yeah, I think that's the hardest thing, and is for the grandparents to stop parenting,
Mhm.
because it feels like they need to parent their children to teach them how to parent. Because as a parent, you're always thinking, oh, it's my job to teach my kids how to be and do and live.
Exactly.
And then they have children, and they're also, maybe overwhelmed, and they might be seeking advice. But then if the advice is not aligned and where their current values are, it can feel like, the grandparent might feel like they're being disrespected, or, that this parent is too permissive. Because that's what I think people see a lot, is that, oh, they're letting their kids get away with all this stuff. Like, you don't talk to me like that. I would never, ever allow your mother to talk to me like that, or whatever.
Yes,
And
I had those thoughts
Mhm.
way back when.
Yes, right? Like,
It's like, you're too permissive. What are you
yes,
guys
yes.
doing?
Yes, right. And that is really, I think, really challenging because when you come from this traditional lens, it is very focused on the external. And so behavior modification, rewards, bribes, threats, fear, pain, punishment, disconnection are the tools.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other tools to
Yes.
use, but they're not as immediate. They don't get immediate compliance. It's a little bit of a slower, longer game.
Yeah, you're right. It's much easier to parent traditionally because you just yell and
Mhm.
you just exert your power and control because you're the adult and they're the kid. So, you're the boss. It's that idea. I'm the boss, so you have to obey me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Doesn't
Yeah.
work
Well, it works. It works. That's the problem is that it is effective on the
for
outside,
the
but it
moment.
erodes the relationship inside. The child's relationship with themselves, and then the child's relationship with their parent.
Right.
And then everybody spends a lot of time in their 20s, like repairing and trying to get to know their kid again and, you know, seeing them from a different side. It's just, I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to lose 7 to 10 years of my kids' young adulthood, adolescence and young adulthood, and have them be so disconnected from me that they lost my mentorship and my voice. And then I lost that front row seat that I love so much of being able to see them, you know, become whoever they're supposed to become. But it is it's a longer game that you're playing. It's like the short term losses of like,
Mm-hmm.
looks like your kid's getting away with something. But
Right.
when what I'm teaching is always like looking for the patterns. Okay, that means you haven't set stronger limits. Maybe you do need to pull in some consequences here. Going through connection, what is driving this behavior? Maybe your child has to, work through some big feelings, meet the emotional need. All those things, when you do that, it takes time, and it might look like the little kid is just, jacking the boxing and not going to bed. um,
Well, what I love about your way of parenting is that it's so respectful of the
Mhm.
person.
Yeah.
And that is really communicated when you can calm yourself and settle down and listen and try and maybe even question like what the need is in the moment. And
Yeah.
that's more important to you than the behavior itself. So it sort of trumps that behavior, I think.
Yeah, the feeling first and the behavior second. And permissive parenting is no behavior. You just never come back to it. And
Right.
I remember one summer when I was exploring all of these new concepts, and I was like, you had a lake house, and I remember getting there and I said, so this summer I'm trying something new. I'm not going to have any consequences, consequence free, which I had read in a book. And I just can only imagine what that must have been like for you and Doug.
Well, we were just glad that you were parenting and not us.
Yeah. And I think that was like, it was very laborious for me to like constantly having all these conversations and redirections. And the model that I now teach is a delayed consequence model,
Mm,
which I think was kind of birthed in that summer because just meeting their emotional needs did for my family and for my model didn't prove uh, effective enough for me. But I just think to to your credit, like what you said earlier, like you just kept your mouth shut or whatever. And I don't know what allowed you to do that because I haven't really made this point is like as a grandparent, as a parent, you love your children. You are worried about them. It's not that you need to control me or Kevin or control our children. It's that you're like, this is what you're doing isn't good. Like it's not because you don't understand it and it's short. It doesn't see, you don't see the results yet. And so the grandparent feels really scared, I think, of this model.
absolutely.
Yeah. So what helped you let us do it. And what helped you not keep your mouth, not say anything?
That's a good question. I'm not sure why we were able to do that. I think maybe, like you said, we cared more about the relationship with you guys than whether or not our parenting style was better than yours or right or whatever. It's like, and also there was a trust level. I mean, we trusted you and Kevin to figure it out, even though we'd have Doug and I would have conversations about we thought no that's not going to work, but we were willing to let you try it and either succeed or fail.
Mm.
Um, I think we were just blessed that we were able to do that. I can't really credit with anything in particular.
Yeah, I was thinking about trust is so huge, right? And the relationship, that's those are two huge factors, right? My relationship with my daughter-in-law, my relationship with my son, or vice versa, is more important than me like winning an argument or proving a point or something like that. Um, and then trusting, yeah, just like, well, they're smart kids and they're figuring it out and they're present and yeah, like looking for evidence of like I can trust them.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I think the conversations that would be something I would recommend to moms listening who are in this conflict with their parent or in-laws is that to have conversations. Like when I showed up that summer, I'm like, I read this book. It's like a consequence
Yes.
free model. We're going to do this like regulation tent thing where, Lincoln can go in and regroup. I'm going to just put him in there. He's dysregulated. I give you all this language. And having that conversation so you knew what was going on and there was intention behind it. I would imagine that would be helpful.
Yes, I think that's really good advice. It
Mhm.
was helpful. And I've always been grateful that you're such a verbal person. And it just amazes me how important having those kinds of interactions, conversations are.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably not everybody's giftedness, but I know that as a person, I'm not extremely verbal, but I can learn from you when you model that for me.
Mhm.
So you're modeling that for all these moms,
Mhm.
and you have this support group together. You can interact on these topics, and I think it's just wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why I like to say the language like, hey, parents, my parents or my in-laws, it might look like I'm ignoring behavior and I'm not. I'm just going to focus on the feelings first and the behavior second. It might look like I'm being permissive and I'm not. I'm delaying consequences.
Those
And
are wonderful statements to make
yes.
to a nervous grandmother or grandfather because it just dials them down
Mhm.
because you're dealing with their emotions and their fear the
Yeah.
same time that you're parenting your kids. You're reparenting the grandparents.
Yes, because they're really not connected to their emotions probably and didn't have
Well,
this
not
model at all. Yeah.
yeah, not as much, but love is a powerful thing, and I think as long as you can keep loving, whether it's loving the grandparents or loving the kids, it's like it's going to work because you're caring more about the relationship than you are how it's done. And
Mhm.
that always communicates, even if you're not especially verbal person. I think it communicates if you're bringing this love from the inside out. It's felt, it's experienced.
Yeah, and the benefit of the doubt for the grandparent, right? Like, I know you love me. I know you love my kids. I know you want what's best for us. And I'm taking everything you're suggesting in love and I'm switching gears a bit and it's going to look weird. Yeah. It's like just really validating. Like, we are all together. We have love and mutual respect here.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you
You're
for all
welcome.
your support that you have given to Kevin and I for the last 20 years raising these kids. We, you know, I did all this new parenting and learning and all these things, but you were a big soundboard for me, and you were willing to listen and listen to my cockamamie ideas sometimes, and ask probing questions, but never like from a place of skepticism, just curiosity. And yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm one of the few daughter-in-laws whose mother-in-law like really respects them and trusts them. And I know that that's rare, and I'm just really grateful to you.
Well, thank you, darling. And I know you've also been very patient with us while we made the switch.
Yeah, it's a journey, right? For all of us.
It is
Grandparenting
a
is a
journey.
journey. Parenting
It's
is.
just good to be in it with you.
Yeah,
So
same.
thank you.
Well, thanks for being on the pod. This is so
Sure.
fun. Yeah. All
That's
right,
been fun.
everyone. I will talk to you next week, and have a great week. This week, your challenge, I like to give everyone like a little tip what to do. I would say if you're having trouble with your parents or your in-laws, to re-listen to this podcast episode, write down those sentences, and then just say the sentences aloud to them, or send an
Mhm.
email. It can be an email. Um, if they're, over 70, they'll reading their emails. So, you just send them an email. All right, mamas, have a great week, and I will talk to you next time. Hey, mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.